On November 14, 2025, after more than 17 years on death row, Stephen Corey Bryant was put to death by firing squad at Broad River Correctional Institution in South Carolina. Bryant, who authorities identified as a serial killer with 3 murder victims, faced his final punishment that evening. This account explains what unfolded on the day of his execution, along with details about his final hours, including his last meal and whether he made a final statement. In October 2004, at the age of 23, Bryant went on an 8-day crime spree across rural Sumter County, South Carolina. The violence left the community terrified and ultimately set him on a path that would end with his execution decades later. Bryant was known to enjoy fishing and frequently visited a nearby river. On the night of October 8th, without any obvious provocation, he shot a man who was fishing there, striking him in the back. The victim, 56-year-old Clinton Brown, survived the shooting and managed to drive himself to the hospital despite his injuries. That attack marked the beginning of a calculated and escalating wave of violence. The next day, October 9, 2004, Bryant spent time with a close friend and co-worker, 36-year-old Clifton Gay. They regularly fished together and were familiar with each other's families. That day, Bryant suggested they go out to buy beer. Instead, he used a stolen firearm to shoot Gay in the head, killing him instantly. Gay's body was left along a quiet rural roadway. On October 11th, Bryant targeted another victim. He broke into the home of 62-year-old Willard Titan, a stranger who lived in a secluded area of the county. Bryant gained entry by pretending his car had broken down and asking for help. Once inside the home, he shot Titan 9 times. The violence continued even after the killing. Bryant burned the victim's eyes with lit cigarettes, an act investigators later described as deeply sadistic. As he searched the home for valuables, including jewelry and tools, the phone rang. The caller was Titan's daughter, Kimberly Dees, who was calling from out of state. The first call went unanswered. When she called again, a man picked up and asked who she was. After she identified herself, he told her she could not speak to her father, saying, "I'm the prowler." He then stated that he had killed her father hours earlier, laughed, and hung up. Bryant went on to use the victim's blood to write taunting messages on the walls, repeatedly challenging police to catch him. He also placed candles around the body before leaving the scene. 2 days later, on October 13, 2004, Bryant killed for the final time. His victim was 35-year-old Christopher Earl Burgess, whom he knew casually. They encountered each other at a rural convenience store, talked briefly, and left together after Bryant offered Burgess a ride. On a remote stretch of road, Bryant shot him twice, once in the head and once in the chest, then left his body in a ditch. A hunter discovered the body less than 2 hours later and contacted authorities. Bryant was arrested later that same day at his girlfriend's home. Police quickly tied him to the crimes, recovering stolen firearms, property belonging to the victims, and clothing that matched witness descriptions. On October 14, 2004, he was officially charged with 3 counts of murder, aggravated burglary, firearm offenses, armed robbery, and arson. Investigators believed additional charges could have followed based on other burglaries linked to him. Even in custody, Bryant remained violent. In October 2005, while awaiting trial at the Sumter Regional Detention Center, he attacked a correctional officer, repeatedly striking him even after the officer was on the ground. The penalty phase of his trial began on September 2, 2008. His defense team argued that his upbringing and history of abuse should spare him from execution, claiming systemic failures played a role in his actions. On September 11, 2008, the jury rejected those arguments. Bryant was convicted of capital murder and sentenced to death for the killing of Willard Titan during a burglary. He also received life sentences for the murders of Clifton Gay and Christopher Burgess, along with nearly 100 additional years for other crimes. Over the next 16 years and 9 months, Bryant pursued every available appeal in the U.S. court system. His legal teams repeatedly challenged the sentence, often raising broader objections to capital punishment. On October 14, 2025, the U.S. Supreme Court denied his final appeal. Shortly afterward, state officials moved to set an execution date, which was formally delivered to Bryant on October 17. State law required the execution to be scheduled for the fourth Friday after notice, setting the date as November 14, 2025. 2 weeks before his execution, Bryant was informed he could choose the method of death. He selected the firing squad, becoming only the third inmate to choose that option since South Carolina resumed executions in 2024. In his final days, Bryant received no family visits and remained mostly isolated, with limited interaction from staff and a spiritual advisor. On the morning of November 14, 2025, Bryant woke at 4 a.m., showered, and met with a spiritual counselor. Later, he was given sedatives as part of standard procedure. That evening, he was escorted to the execution chamber and secured to the chair. A target was placed over his heart, a hood was lowered over his head, and the execution order was read aloud as witnesses observed. At 6:10 p.m., 3 shooters fired at the same time. The bullets struck Bryant's chest, and although his body reacted briefly, death was believed to have occurred almost immediately. At 6:20 p.m., he was pronounced dead. Stephen Corey Bryant made no final statement. This concludes the account. Was justice served, or should the outcome have been different?